Hello, I think we are live. Adam, Dan, are you with me?
We are.
Yep, you are.
I'm clear.
All right. Happy Wednesday.
I'm sitting in rain clouds, so I may have to move shortly, but for now I'm good.
All right, let's cross our fingers the rain holds off in that case. We've had like 17 IT issues today. I know we don't need rain in the mix.
How about that rainfall yesterday? Did you guys see that? My goodness, I'm back in Saratoga from the trouncing around Poland and Ukraine and driving in. I mean, the skies were angry, my friends. That was nuts.
I saw rivers on Broadway. It was a deluge. Am I saying that? Am I saying that correctly? It was.
Yes, it was
intense. The power went out downtown for at least a brief period where I was. NYRA was having their Traverse draw. Fortunately for them, it really didn't affect it. But they had to cancel the turf races today, and they canceled the steeplechase races. So even there's residual effects a full day later. But boy, we needed the rain. Maybe not all at once.
Guys, where was I for all of this? How did I miss this massive rainstorm?
Cow.
What time was it?
5:30, 5:30, 6.
Well, I was blissfully unaware of the weather at 5:30. But regardless,
it was rumbling. It was like harsh thunder. Wow, yeah, you got lucky.
Well, hey, Adam, we're happy to have you home. We're happy to have you back stateside. I know that the U.S. just put out a warning to all Americans in Ukraine to, evacuate and leave because they are going to be targeted more harshly than previously by the Russians, or that's at least what we're hearing. Correct?
Yeah, I got a funny little kind of anecdote on that. So there's today is Ukrainian Independence Day, where they signed original freedom from Russia, and there's a big fear. There's big celebrations in Kiev. They actually lined up all these burnt out Russian military tanks and transports to kind of do a burnt out Russian military parade. And so there's a big fear that, Putin's big on symbolism, and this is a big symbol of Ukraine's freedom. And what's Putin going to do? And is there going to be a strike? And Biden called for, to get out of Kyiv. Well, what I'm hearing through my channels is that the Russian military is thinking the same thing. So the Russian military right now is really on edge, thinking that Ukraine's going to strike them on their Independence Day. So, so I've been monitoring some channels, talking to some people. As of now, there hasn't been anything major. And in the 6 hours ahead, Russia tends to bomb at night and shell at night. So, there could be something happening tonight. But it's just funny because I heard that Americans should be leaving Ukraine, and if I was there, I would leave because it's when it comes to this level, it's the prudent thing to do. But it's just funny that Russians are getting the same thing. So anyway. Slava Ukraine, keep fighting, and we're praying for you. So that's my little.
I was kind of wondering how you're going to come up with a funny anecdote with that as the background, but you did. That is kind of amusing.
This, if I could ask you on the Ukraine thing, just because it's relevant here. By the way, it is Ukraine Day at the track as well. What is life like there right now for the average citizen? I mean, how are they? They're at war, for God's sake. How are they functioning? How are they eating? Do they have electricity? I don't understand all those nuances. Well, they're more than nuances.
Yeah, Dan, that's a great question, and unfortunately there's two answers to that. So I was talking to somebody this morning. It was a young lady in one of the camps whose parents stayed and it was occupied by Russia, the territory. And at 6 a.m. every morning, Russia plays the national anthem. People can't. There's a curfew. Well, her father was out, and her mother went to a neighboring town to get food, and her father went to meet her somewhere. And the father's invalid; he can't drive, he can't fight, and the mother got stuck and couldn't make it back. So the father waited till the last moment, was going home after curfew, after 8 p.m., and was taken by the Russians. He was brought to a camp. The mother couldn't tell the daughter much because, fear that you don't want to call attention to yourself. So, and the father, essentially, what the daughter got out of it was tortured for 2 days. And it's just, so that's the reality on the front lines and east of Russian occupation.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot. East or west of the front line in Kyiv and even Lviv, it's business as usual. It's air raid sirens go off, they're heard, but it's a way of life now. Russia is, I've heard a lot of reports that two things are happening. Russia's, their stockpile of accurate ballistic missiles is finite, and they've been shooting them off a lot, and they're really running low. So that's why you don't see the attacks on the major cities. And also Ukraine is bolstering their air defense. So Russia has to send now, instead of sending one missile to hit a target, they got to send off a salvo of them, because a large percentage of them will probably get picked off. So I pray for Kyiv today. I think that people say, well, listen, Putin's going to hit whatever he can. There's no further angering Putin or appeasing Putin. So people are really, today's going to anger him with a symbolism, and he's going to fire. That's not do things to not anger. He's gonna fire what he has when he has. And I just think he's running low. So let's pray that's the case. Let's pray that the UK defense holds, and that Russia just grinds to a halt with their military.
And Adam, Ukraine is what, 6 or 8 hours ahead of us?
7 hours, but Ukraine
7
hours. 7 hours,
So
and then I think part of it is 8. I mean, it's like an 8-hour drive between just Kyiv and Lviv. It's a massive country.
I only bring that up to say that their day is pretty much over. Like the day
it is. But like I said earlier, Russia likes to strike at night.
Right.
So pray for peaceful skies tonight.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to do a little bit of a left turn and bring in some of our friends, Linda LeTendre and Patricia Nugent. Hello, ladies. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Linda and Patricia are joining us today because they are both one of many, I hear, creators of the Banned Books Project at Cafe Lena, which is just a really fantastic project, a really interesting project. And Linda had reached out to me about it, and I thought it was a great subject for our podcast today. And I want to open it up to Patricia or Linda to kind of describe what it is and why it's so necessary right now to have this Banned Books Project happening.
Go ahead, Pat. You're a better speaker than I am.
Linda's got the passion that pulls us through this stuff. I made the mistake of accepting an invitation to go for a walk with Linda in the spring, thinking it was just a walk. But as you know, a walk with Linda is never a walk with Linda. So on the way, she said, hey, we've got to do something about banned books. And that started a conversation. And as a reader myself, as an author, as a career educator, she helped light the fuse of what was already concerning me about what's happening with challenging and banning books across our country, certainly, but also around the world as people are becoming more limited in their views about what's acceptable. And it's not really a left turn, Robin, from what Adam was talking about, because it's all about civil liberties. It's all about being able to protect our own, being able to live, to be our true selves, our authentic selves, and expressing ourselves, and not being bullied by others who think we should be different or more or better or whatever.
And what I think for me personally, what has been scary here in America to see is that I know, for example, in the state of Florida, they are now very strictly monitoring what books children are going to be allowed to see or read in school. And that's coming directly from the government. And for me, the government regulating what books we can or cannot be reading in schools is terrifying. I mean, it gives me literally chills just to think about as I'm saying it here right now. So I think there couldn't be a more timely moment for this.
Because reading and books are empowering. So, we know the history in Nazi Germany. What did they do? They got rid of the printing presses. They burned books. What's happening in Tennessee right now is they're burning books in our country. They're challenging books. People who are opposed to stories that present same-sex relationships in any way, not only just children's books, but also books in general. They're getting on library boards, they're getting on school boards, and really zeroing in on controlling what we have access to. Because reading leads to free thinking, to critical thinking, and to wanting to make things better.
Now, the only upside to this that I see, and maybe you guys would agree, is that when you tell a teenager they're not allowed to read something, 9 times out of 10, that teenager is like hell bent on finding it and reading it. So I'm hoping that that's the case in some of these states and areas that we're talking about. But Linda, can you tell me a little bit about the actual library itself? Because I walked by just now and saw it outside of Cafe Lena, and I'll put some pictures in the comments. But can you kind of describe what it looks like and how it's going to work?
The box is part, and first of all, I would just like to note that Pat has not asked me to go on a walk since that early walk. But know that I've not been invited back, but that's okay. The library is we're calling it our little Liberty Library, but the library is really part of the little free library system. Project started, I don't know, somewhere about 15 years ago. Some guy and had some scrap metal. He goes to his garage, or scrap wood, sorry. He goes to his garage, builds a little box, and starts a library exchange. Somewhere now, 15 years later, there are over 150,000 of them around the world. So this was one person making a huge difference. So the idea is you have this box of books, people make a book. I have one out in front of my house that gets a lot of crap. The book exchange. During the height of the pandemic, it was the little free libraries where people got their books in the country because the libraries were closed, and this was a safe, easy way to get reading material. I got the Daily Gazette to do a story. To find out, I got the idea that you could actually specialize in these libraries. Most Holy Redeemer Cemetery out towards Troy, New York, has a little free library that specializes in grief and grief. The idea maybe we could do something that the book started to happen as I started to read more and more about what was happening across the United States. I approached Pat, and she, let's go for a walk, and said, why don't we do a little library that specializes in banned books? So, and you'd be surprised if you go back and look at books that have been banned. Gulliver's Travels, To Kill a Mockingbird, A Light in August, The Grapes of Wrath, Catcher in the Rye. So there are over 1,000 books that have been banned or restricted in the United States. And so let's put together a little free library that will not specialize in books, but information basically on how to fight this kind of thing, how to push back against fascism, how to push back censorship. So, for example, one of the books that I'm going to donate is Lenny Bruce's How to Be Dirty and Influence People. Great book. The book itself was never banned, but Lenny Bruce was, for his language and the kinds of things he would talk about. He would talk about religion. And in an adult place, no less. He talked about them in nightclubs for their children. But so it's a way of preserving our freedoms and preserving intellectual stand up to the government on a number of issues. And one of the things I'll point out is that in the Bible, when we talk about prophets and to prophesy, it wasn't about reading tea leaves or crystal balls. It was about being able to read the signs of the times and understand where you were going with it, how to read. Think about the number of book bannings and book challenges, and just in 2021, there were 729 challenges over to about 1,600 books across the United States. As
Linda, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but real quick, because I want to make sure people know this as we're talking about this. And Pat, you can chime in here. Tonight at 7 p.m., correct? There's going to be an unveiling.
That's correct.
Okay, so for those who are interested, 7 p.m. tonight at Cafe Lena, there'll be an unveiling of the Dan Book Project and the Little Liberty Library. Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah,
that's correct.
And there's certainly the unveiling of the library, which was incredibly beautifully. It was built by a friend of mine who donated his time, and it has been beautifully painted by a local artist.
And is it all
Cameron.
books that have appeared on a banned book list somewhere, and so I guess is this a like one of those free little libraries where you trade a book, and if you trade a book, how do you know if the one that you're putting in has been banned?
You don't have to take one to drop one off.
Gotcha.
But we are. You can look online for banned books. There are lists of the most 100 banned books in the country. We also have a steward, a library steward who is going to monitor contents and make sure that they qualify. But I just want to mention to Robin, it's not just the unveiling of the library that has been beautifully painted by C.A.M. Cameron, a local artist, but it's also where 12 local authors are reading from banned books. So starting at 7:00, we are going to have original music by Dan Berggren, who has written songs about free to read. And so 12 authors are reading. We're calling it's kind of like speed dating. 12 authors are reading 12 banned authors for 5 minutes each. So you're going to get a smattering of, our hope is we give you a smattering of what would be lost should this book be pulled from the shelves, for kids, for adults. I'm reading from Anne Frank. I could cry. Her diary makes us cry anyway, but thinking that her biggest fear is that her words would never be seen, that was a bigger fear for her than being discovered by the Nazis. And so the thought is so sickening to me and so repulsive that we would have people saying, we can't, take Anne Frank out of schools because there's one brief entry where she shows that she's got some feelings towards another young girl. So that's enough to ban all the stories that she tells firsthand about the Holocaust and about them starving and their fears. It just shows how out of proportion this whole thing has gotten.
Yeah, we were just actually in Amsterdam yesterday, traveling back, and we went past Anne Frank's house. And when I talked to this young lady whose parents are in occupied Ukraine right now by Russia, I referenced Anne Frank. Well, she was in there for 2 years in the attic.
A little over 2 years.
And that's what I was. What do you tell a young lady whose father was tortured by Russians? I said, listen, it's the sun will come up. This will end one day. I don't know when that'll be, but I said, if, by reference Anne Frank, if she could live in an attic for 2 years, just have them keep their head low and avoid the Russians. But yeah, this is such a part of our history as humans, and what we've been through and history. If we don't. I'm sure there's books about many different things in history, but since you just referenced Anne Frank, it's doomed to repeat itself if we don't keep it
what does it say to other countries as you tell the story of there's hope? First of all, we know how her story ends tragically, but also what does it say to other countries when we pretend to be this democracy that's going to save the world, when in our own country we can have the book banned? I mean, it's so distorted.
It's been interesting because I know, for example, there was some controversy over To Kill a Mockingbird, and in terms of the racism and how some people were interpreting it in terms of like white savior complex, and there was some really complicated themes that we now see through the lens of 2022 when we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And I think the important thing there that I took out of this debate was that not that we're not going to read To Kill a Mockingbird anymore and not recognize what a pivotal piece of literature it was, in terms of our history, but it's that we can appreciate it for the piece of work it was when it was written. And then we can also analyze it through a different lens of 2022 and look at some of the more complicated issues that have come up now in terms of race, for example. But the whole point was that no matter what, we still read it and we still talk about it. And so, yeah.
I had a question.
I also think we need to look at the reason behind the reason sometimes, because there's a whole nother culture that doesn't like how racists are portrayed.
Sure.
It's kind of like back to that Charlottesville thing. There's very fine people on both sides. So sometimes they give a socially acceptable reason for being against a book, but there's an undercurrent and an underlying. For
Yeah.
instance, one of the reasons for banning Anne Frank is because it's a bummer. Yeah, it is. Genocide is a real bummer.
Yeah, she is. Oh my God.
So what is it really, that white supremacists aren't presented very nicely?
Right.
We need to peel it back and really probe and ask questions about why this would be considered not a good book for people.
Speaking of questions, I know Dan had a question.
Thank you. I was firing one out and I was on mute. Thank you, both of you, for coming with us today to join us to tell us about this. I am a big fan of Cafe Elena, so I'm glad that you're partnering with this. Is this little library now a permanent feature going forward, or is this a limited period of time?
Sure.
Okay, great. And then because I don't know so much about this, at least the current state of banned books, and Robin touched on one, could you give me an example of a specific government or a specific book of how this actually went about, the banning of the book? Because it's almost appalling. It is not almost appalling. It is appalling. It's shocking. You almost think, come on, not in America. But obviously it's happening.
I mean, off the top of my head, ladies, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know the state of Texas and the state of Florida are both banning books in schools. Beyond that, I don't have any examples, but maybe you all do.
Well, I think, Dan, certainly there is sometimes complicity on the part of the government, where a governor, such as in Texas or Florida, might suggest that we need to protect kids from whatever. But as I said, they're infiltrating school boards and library boards. They're making it a point. People who want to ban certain things are making it a point to get on these boards. That's true even in the state legislature. It's a mission.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, go ahead.
Well, they're not just banning them for children either. They're looking to ban them for adults. The stuff that they don't want you to read. And so for us, this was a simple that we can stand up to this and we can prevail. To your point, Robin, about when you ban something from kids, they want to read it. The graphic novel Mouse was banned in school in Tennessee, I think because the mouse was naked in one of the drawings. So the kids in that school, these middle school kids, decided to form a banned book club, and so that's what they did, and they're reading banned books. I thought, wow, parents raised them right. But
listen, there was a controversy here at the last couple school board meetings, which would have been in May and June of this year, over a book that was read in maybe 8th or 9th grade. And there were parents at the school board meeting objecting to it. And there was debate over whether or not it was an appropriate book to be read, in those grades. And so you really don't have to look far to see where this is happening. Well, I want to thank you both so much. I really appreciate your being on. These are such important issues. Tonight, 7 p.m., Cafe Lena, Banned Books Project. Here are people reading from banned books. And then in the meantime, go check out the library. I have pictures of it that are on my phone. I'll throw them in comments. It's absolutely beautiful. I might add, it's beautiful. It's adorable. If you're looking at Cafe Lena, it's right on the left. So we'll throw those photos up. But thank you so much, ladies, for what you're doing, and keep fighting the fight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us in that fight.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello. We're back. Adam, Dean, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, that's such good work that they're doing. I'm so pleased that they're doing that, because it is such an important issue, and it's something that doesn't get, I think, enough attention, but the repercussions are pretty significant, Yeah,
I will say, Dan, I thought, I've known Linda for a while. I love those ladies. I love her passion, her social activism. It is interesting, Dan, though, and at some point, I think, and I think it's great. Any access to literature that people have is not a bad thing. So I love what they're doing. But Dan, it is interesting you brought up the point of, what does banned books actually mean, right? Is this more? I know it's happening, but is there more debate around it? Because if you just say, banning books, it doesn't give the whole picture of, I think, what's going on. Because like you said, Robin, there was debate at a school board about a book in Saratoga, but I think, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's an interesting topic that maybe sometimes we can, peel the layers back again. Because again, banning books because you don't like the message it gives, or it's against your religious beliefs is a horrible thing, and I'm certainly against that. But what is actually going on with these banned books? Why are they being banned? And is there? I mean, I think we can all agree at some point there's things that shouldn't be, books that shouldn't be allowed in school. No.
Yes and no. So it's interesting. So some of the books that I read growing up in school that are now on some banned book lists are like The Key. And those are banned because of the way they portray race. And then in other areas.
Because because there's like overt racism in them.
Because I guess it's the way in which African Americans and the Black person in the book is portrayed, and there's the N-word is in the book,
so
throughout the book.
This banned book, it works both ways.
It works both ways.
Conservative and liberals, and it's really
correct.
I think the more we talk about it, the more of an understanding we get. I think it's great what these ladies are doing. It's again, let's get these books out there, especially if if people can go read it if they want. If they don't want to read it, they don't read it.
Yeah,
I love what they're doing, but this is an interesting topic, I think.
Yeah, because on the other hand, is it age appropriate? And I know Hatchet. I don't know if you guys read that book, Hatchet. But one of my kids' classes, they started reading it, and then I guess some parents and the teacher were like, you know what, this isn't quite age appropriate. We're going to wait a year and then reintroduce this book. So that's like a different thing. You know what I mean? Making sure the kids are it's an age appropriate subject and book for them. But it's hard for me because the books that are being discussed on some of these banned book lists and some of the ones that are being taken out of curriculums are some of the most formative books I have read in my life. I mean, literally, a book like Hatchet was probably one of the top 5 books I read in school. I loved it. And so it's hard for me to see some of these books get pulled or debated when they had such a significant impact on my education. But anyhow, at least I can get them still at Northshire Bookstore and have them for my kids if they're not on the curriculum. So that's a good thing.
I'm going to try that with my kids. You're going to look at electronics all day, and you can't read these books, and see if they gravitate to that and open them up and start reading them.
In other news, what else is going on, guys? I know we have a few other things to talk about. I know we have the little political update from last week, and then we were hoping to have NYRA on today to talk about the track. We had some technical difficulties, so we're going to try to have someone from NYRA back shortly to talk about NYRA, all things NYRA. But actually, speaking of, one of the things I want to talk about, Dan, and I know we didn't talk about this in advance, but you wrote an incredible piece that was published in the Times-Union with the suggestion of having a day next year during the meet that is devoted to specifically female jockeys in particular. But just, it kind of seems like women in racing in general. And I was hoping you could kind of describe that idea for our viewers, because I think it's such a great idea.
Yes, there was, is it possible to go with that video or no?
So I am going to try while you're talking, but it's
while you're holding, I'll just folks, there are very few jockeys in the sport, female jockeys in the sport of thoroughbred horse racing. There certainly are some. Jackie Davis comes to mind. She won a big race a couple weeks ago here with a celebration. Those of you that know what I'm talking about will nod your head yes. It was an incredible celebration by a small stable with a small-time trainer who happened to be Jackie Davis's father, Robbie Davis, a one-time jockey. And it was such a fun, feel-good experience. Everyone automatically declared it the feel-good moment of the Saratoga meet, and they were right. And Jackie, why I won't steal the thunder if we are able to show the video of her interview, but it was just such a great thing, and it made me realize even more that female jockeys in horse racing, it shouldn't be that they're so few and far between, that it's actually an event when you see a female jockey at Saratoga or another. It shouldn't be that way, and there must be ways to boost female jockeys in horse racing. some of the female trainers are starting to come out without a boost. They're just making it on their own. And there's some up and comers, Brittany Russell, Cherie DeVoe, a few others that are really starting to shake the trees and get some wins in some stakes level races and so forth. And that's pretty neat. But I propose, long and short of it, I propose NYRA should do, I said, an entire day of just female jockeys. People that liked the concept but didn't like the idea of the full day said, no, just 2 races, just 3 races. Fine. I don't care. Get something that honors and gives a boost to female jockeys in horse racing. And that was the gist of it.
Dan, if I could jump in here,
Jackie Davis, in Saratoga.
Sorry, guys. I uploaded the video. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're watching it.
All right, I uploaded the video. Okay, I'm going to start it again. Sorry, I didn't realize it would just
Wait.
playing.
Can I tee it up?
Yeah, tee it up. Please tee it up.
Well, this is the win I'm talking about. And this is Jackie Davis, who had just won, and she's walking back to the locker room. And this pretty smart reporter put his cell phone in her face, and she sort of wanted to move on, but he kept asking her great questions that she was eager to answer them. Just look at the joy. Look at the joy that's going on there. Even if you're not a horse racing fan, enjoy this 2-minute video. Thank you, Robin. Go
All
ahead.
right, here we go. Sure thing.
Jackie Davis, first win at Saratoga. Fans are going absolutely crazy. You have a mount to the next race. Girls everywhere, all over. Tell me what this means to you.
Oh my God. Thank you. This winter means the world to me because it's my first race in Saratoga, and my dad, for my dad especially. I know he went a lot of races here as a jockey, but us together, I'm beside myself. I'm so happy. I didn't know if I was gonna cry, laugh, or fall off after the wire. And I've been working with this filly since she first started. I got her gate card. I've been helping Dad like crazy, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today.
You have a mount to the next race that you picked up.
Wait,
I know you got to get back to the jockeys room, but tell me a little about that rail ride there when it opened up. It opened up. Did you just hit it?
So the last 2 days, I've been out in the morning. I rode yesterday. The rail's been wicked deep, and when I went out there to warm up, I left the pony, and I was like, how the heck did they get the rail so good? So I just sat on the rail and waited my turn, and prayed they opened it.
Well, congratulations to Saratoga winning for your family. I know you got to go weigh in now. Good luck in the next race.
Thank you so much.
Pretty great, guys.
Yeah. I think we lost Dan there, but
Well, how did you lose Dan? That was his video.
I know.
I am here, folks. I was getting rained upon, so I'm mobile at the moment, but I am with you.
Yeah, I can see, Dan, I think a day for just female jockeys. I don't know that would doing the sport justice. I don't know that there's enough of them. But certainly going back to what you said, a race. I mean, races have conditions. For those people who don't know about horse racing, a horse race, you don't just have a horse race where any horse can race in it. You'll have a horse that can be for 3-year-old horses who have not won a race, who were born in Saratoga or who were born in New York. That would be a races have conditions. So I think maybe a female jockey condition race, that might be something interesting. I think it would. I think it would be kind of something that would bring a little excitement to the sport.
But what about just having a day that's designated like women in racing, and a day to celebrate women in racing? And so like perhaps there's a race where it's, I don't know how many female jockeys there are either, but like from trainers to owners to jockeys to like hot walkers. I don't know all the words, you guys, because I'm not like totally, I'm not the track expert, but anyone involved in racing who's a woman, just celebrating that overall population and having like one day designated like to celebrate women in racing.
The problem is horse racing, and this is what I love about Saratoga and horse racing. It's extremely diverse. I tell people at the Saratoga meet, you can go and you can meet somebody, I hate to put it this way, the most degenerate, down on their luck gambler to the sheikhs of Dubai. And you can meet everyone in between. And there's so many cultures that have contributed to horse racing that I think to have one day just for women, it's one of those. And I know this is the proverbial. I know when you put the Pride crosswalk, Robin, you face the same question.
Well, wait, it wouldn't have to only be women. It would just be like specifically acknowledging women who were involved that day. So it wouldn't have to be like exclusively women racing or you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I know that, but it's I just think there's so many cultures that have contributed to this sport that you would it's the our Latin friends who contribute, or the Irish, or there's a lot of great Polish horses in the racing. So
right. But I would just assert, Adam, that a lot of the other demographics that you're talking about don't face the same challenges that women face trying to break into the sport.
Well,
you know what I mean? Trying to break into the sport as a woman, I think, has got to be particularly hard as compared to basically any other group.
Yeah, but this also brings up, this was a deeper question. It's like, all
right, Adam hates all women. That's it.
No, but is this a sport women are struggling? Do women want to break into this sport? Is this a sport that are women queuing to do this? I don't know.
There are enough female jockeys around the country. If NYRA would give them like a travel stipend to come in for the day or two that they have some sort of celebration. So that's one thing. And also it would be good for the sport. There are people that go to horse racing, but there are some parents that would bring their daughters to something like this.
This woman would. Remember the whoever the horse where it was like run like a girl. There was like a girl horse.
Yes.
Rachel Alexander.
Rachel Alexander. Okay, so remember people got all pumped up about Rachel Alexander running because it was a female horse and it was like run like a girl, and there was a whole push around that.
She was taking on the boys and she was beating the boys.
Yeah, she was taking on the boys. She was beating the boys. So suck on that, Adam. We already had one.
I'm curious. Are there? Again, I just see this as a rabbit hole. Are there any LGBTQ jockeys?
Well, now you're getting really specific, and I'm not sure like people's sexual orientation like is something. I think that's getting like very niche and personal,
but that's you have a whole crosswalk for it, right? In Saratoga. So
different thing, but different situation.
It's a different situation, but do they have problems breaking into the horse racing? I love what some of these girls and some of these ladies are doing in horse racing. I'd love to see a condition meet where it's all female jockeys, but a whole day devoted to women, I just think is you're stealing the spotlight from a lot of people who contribute to the sport.
Don't you think that men get the spotlight pretty much like every other day of the meet
in
or
the
people
sport?
who are and I think that for the Mexican population that contributes so much, I feel like they get a lot of recognition. I feel like I don't know about Polish or Irish, but like
it's more horses than and the Irish are a lot of the people who work with the horses. But for instance, the video we just saw, she went out there, she ran a race, she got a bunch of credit. There was a big celebration. I don't recall her name. So the fact is, it is more of a male dominated sport. But men get more of the. But that's just the nature of horse racing. There are more male farmers than there are female farmers, and horse racing is a sport that's kind of steeped in farming.
I guess that would be kind of the point though, Adam, is like, so if I took Alice Dalton, right, to a day that was devoted to like women in racing, and she saw a jockey like that race, in her mind, okay, maybe it's a possibility that I could actually be a jockey, whereas that's not a thought she would have had before. Just saying.
Yeah.
Did I stump you with that one?
Well, but I guess if somebody has a gay son, why should we afford them the same opportunity?
I'm not totally like understanding that correlation, because I'm not sure that they would have the same I can't be in racing because of my sexual orientation, because I feel like sexual orientation doesn't really come up in racing, but I do feel like you don't see girls on horses. And so just by virtue of what we see every day at the meet, it's something that like, for example, there's the first female head of the CIA. And I made a big deal to show my daughter, look, there's the first female head of the CIA, because you think of people in the CIA, you think of men. And so it's just an opportunity to let girls know that there are more options out there for them. And this is not something they're precluded from doing just because of their sex.
Can I jump in with an awkward segue here?
Yeah.
Go for it.
When the time is right, and I don't know if it's today because we didn't really prep or talk about it, but the Chad Brown arrest last week, where he was arrested for a misdemeanor charge of obstructing the airway. we will talk about it, I think, because I know you too, and you're not going to shy away from it. I just don't know if we should be talking about it today, just because we haven't really discussed it off camera much. But I would like to get to that soon.
I'm happy to talk about it today, and I always think it's better when we don't discuss things off camera, because we get like the real most authentic version of our opinions here. But it's up to Adam. Adam, are you cool talking Chad?
Yeah,
I
don't. It's going to be old news next week, so
yeah.
Well, for those
I'll
that
dive
don't,
right in.
I'm sure just about everybody knows the general story, right?
So basically, the general story is that Chad Brown, who's a local trainer and a very successful one at that, was arrested last week for obstructing the breathing of an individual, and was arrested for, I believe it was a misdemeanor count of obstruction of breathing. There might have been one other thing in there that he was arrested for. But essentially what we were told through the media was that a woman entered his home. She had a key to his home. She entered his home, and he was in his home with another woman. He was in bed with that other woman. He got up. He did not want this other woman to be entering his home, and said that she basically broke in. And in trying to get her out of his home, she alleges that she was strangled and pushed down the stairs. And so the police were called. Chad was arrested. He had an appearance in court last week. In that appearance, his attorney argued that this was essentially a home invasion. This woman was not welcome in his home. She was wearing a hoodie. He kind of started it on some kind of not relevant specifics. At that point, Judge Francine Vero, whose court it was assigned to, smacked back at his attorney a little bit and said, like, in this court, we don't victim blame. And so they kind of stopped with that line of discussion from Chad's attorney. But he was arraigned, and that's that. That's where we're at. He's out on, I think, $2,500 bail, and that's where it stands. So, of course, we don't know we're not going to discuss the name of the victim, obviously. We're not going to discuss the name of the person that Chad was with at the time. But this is on the heels of another kind of scandal pertaining to Chad Brown, which was either last year or the year before. I'm not, maybe you guys can help me, where he was essentially not paying, he wasn't paying his workers a fair wage, correct?
I believe it was 2018. It was an overtime issue that added up to quite a bit of money.
Yeah. 1.4 million or 1.7 million. But this is really interesting because I've been traveling the last couple of days, so I just caught the headlines of this.
Right.
And it is. I have actually, it was 25 years ago, kind of a similar story, and what had happened is in my late 20s, the lady who would come in to my house, she actually, I didn't know she smacked me in the head and split my head open, and then I was holding her down and she bit my ankle, and so when the police came, they actually saw me at a bleeding head and a bit ankle. They arrested her, and she was there's a lifetime can't get close to me thing. But this brings up a great question of if somebody comes into your house and
hold on. Yeah. But this person was someone that Chad knew, that Chad had dated, and that he had given a key to his home to. So it's a bit of a difference. Now, maybe their relationship was over. Maybe he wanted that key back. Maybe, whatever. But one way or the other, this was someone that was known to Chad. They had dated. Yeah. And he had given the key to the home. So it's a bit of a different situation than someone just breaking into a house. You know what I mean?
I understand that. But I guess the question is, was she invited at this, was she had a key, but maybe they were over, right? Maybe as far as he was concerned, they were done. So I think that's the first question is, was that, and Dan, you could probably add a bunch of, but then what are your rights if somebody comes in your home? Right. I mean, it's you have the right to forcibly remove somebody from your home. And I would imagine it has a lot to do with that invitation. Right, Dan?
There are there's laws that say you can use deadly physical force.
Right.
I don't think it would apply to this situation, but like in a burglar, for instance, you absolutely have no idea. Right. They're coming in to burglarize you. You can actually use generally speaking, the law of New York State and the law of the land has often been you can use a gun to defend yourself or other deadly physical force. This situation here, it's going to play out in court. I just, I don't know if it's going to be dismissed. I don't know if it's going to be a plea. I'm not necessarily a Chad Brown fan, but I'll give him his due that he deserves his day in court, because there are two sides of this story already. And I wasn't there, so I don't know. The overtime thing, that's said and done. I'm not a fan of him because of that. These are low wage workers, a lot of them foreign, sending money back to Mexico and other Latin American countries. To shortchange them on overtime is inexcusable. This case, I just, it's still an open case, and he does have the presumption. There's
a presumption of innocence.
Yeah, exactly, presumption of innocence. He's not guilty until proven guilty. So I'm not going to slam him for this, but I will say, embarrassing for NYRA. It's embarrassing for the horse industry, generally speaking.
Well, I'm going to weigh in with a little context on my end, which comes from being a girl in Saratoga and knowing a lot of girls in Saratoga and knowing a lot of girls in Saratoga who have dated Chad Brown. And I'm just going to say, I know. And I'm going to tell you that I think he's a piece of shit. I think the way he has treated women, this case aside, now I'm not talking at all about what happened last week. I'm talking about the years and years before this, that I've been familiar with him through the women he's dated. And I think he's a piece of shit. And I think he treats women horribly. And I think it's emblematic of a culture at the track that is like celebrated for some reason. There's just this kind of seedy underbelly of the way, trainers and some of these folks think they are larger than life and think they can get away with whatever. And they treat women like garbage. They use and abuse them. And I think it's really disturbing. And I think it's something that needs to be discussed more often and is not. But this, I wasn't surprised by this news. I was disheartened. I was sad. I feel horrific for the victims, whoever they might be in this case. And I think it's really important that if indeed this happened the way the victim said it happened, that there's accountability and it's a bigger conversation that we have about, who we're uplifting in the sport of racing. And is it appropriate to be uplifting someone if they are indeed convicted of this misdemeanor assault charge? So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, so it does seem like, Robin, from what you said, there is, whether, for me, the scenario, if somebody comes into your home, it's an ex-girlfriend, she's, doing who knows what, and you make her exit your house, seems like it may be in his rights to do. But with that being said,
doesn't it seem like if someone was in your house, an ex-girlfriend, and you wanted them to leave and they wouldn't leave, you would pick up the phone and say, "Hi, Saratoga Springs Police, I have someone in my house, she won't leave," versus like pushing them down the stairs and strangling them?
It would, but doesn't mean it wasn't within his rights to do that either. It doesn't mean
in fairness to all parties involved, we just weren't there.
But
I'm not going to defend Chad Brown again. I'm not a fan, but
I'll end it with this, Robin. I think you pointed the point is, you play with fire and you get burned. And you keep putting yourself in these situations, and sooner or later bad things are going to happen. And it sounds like he's just getting his, at best he's getting his comeuppance for just living a kind of open lifestyle there, and at worst he beat the he's a domestic violence perpetrator. Yeah. So.
You're dead right, Adam. You're dead right. You play with fire, you're going to get burned. This is a small town. You want to be a man whore, at some point it's going to catch up with you, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, that's what I call me. Hey, do we want to do picks for the Dan? Do you have any picks for the race?
Yeah, I mean the clear favorite is Epicenter. Saratoga, don't forget, is the graveyard of champions. But let's put it this way, if Epicenter loses, it'll be a surprise to me. It'll be at a cost to me because I will bet Epicenter. But I'm not that great of a horse player. There's some people that are going to pick a longer shot on the board, and they may just cash in. But Epicenter seems like the one to beat.
Yeah.
Wait, are there only 8 horses? I'm looking it up right now.
Only 8 horses. Yeah, small field.
You guys do your pick, and then I'll do my little pick.
All right. So Dan, Epicenter's never won a grade rated race before. So I'm going to go with the odds. Rich Strike right now is at 10-1. Rich Strike won the Kentucky Derby, I think, at the greatest odds. What was it, 99? Was it, Dan? Do you remember?
83. But Epicenter is a Grade 1 winner. He won at Belmont. I gotta recall.
The horse that won the Derby is in this.
Yes, Rich Strike.
I had that bet.
at 10 to 1, Robin. So, I mean, that's 10 to 1 morning line. That line most certainly will go down. But I think, I see like a funny side. I see 2 good races out of this horse. So.
Well, I'm going to have to bet. I'm going to have to bet on Rich Strike then, because I had like a $2 bet on them to win in the Kentucky Derby, and I won like freaking $140. It was like the most exciting moment of my entire life. So I'm going to have to bet on that horse, but just, I bet, by the way, you guys, based on names, and based on names alone, I'm a dork. I'm going to bet on early voting. Early voting and Cyber Knife. That's what I'm going to do. Early voting and Cyber Knife.
I'm getting my horses mixed up. Epicenter did not win. It was Mo Donegal, and I should know that because we Ray Bryan in town here is part of Donegal Racing.
I was going to say, I know.
He won the Jim Dandy earlier this meet and won some big graded stakes that were leading up to the Kentucky Derby. But yeah.
Yes, we love Ray.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We love Ray.
Yes.
Question for you guys. Also, I heard is the Belmont going to be in Saratoga next year? Did I hear that correctly?
No, this fall the Belmont Stakes will be held at Aqueduct Racecourse because they're making a tunnel to the infield to Belmont. And it's Aqueduct and Belmont have importance to Saratoga because they're part of the NYRA circuit, and what's good for Aqueduct and Belmont is good for Saratoga. We need a strong horse racing in New York, so it's not just, even though Saratoga is the creme, it's the pride and joy of New York racing. They need the other ones. Belmont's a beautiful track as well. It's just ginormous. It's underutilized. You might get 1,000 people there on an average Saturday. That's not a big day. And they're going to redo it. They got the hockey rink there now. So New York racing in 5 years is going to look very different than it is today. Belmont, it's not a matter of if, but when it closes. And then everything will go to Belmont. And there could even be a longer Saratoga meet.
I think the last time I was at a Travers, it was when that horse was maybe going to win a Triple Crown.
Yes. It's when Key Nice, Ray Bryan, the Donegal Racing, when Key Nice beat American Pharaoh, I believe, in 2015.
Oh, yeah. So American Pharaoh. So basically, my husband and I decided to go and just kind of like, stay in the back and hang out. Holy shit. Let me tell you, when it was clear American Pharaoh wasn't going to win, the atmosphere at the track, turned so dramatically. We hightailed it out of there. It was intense. It was intense. Yeah. People wanted American Pharaoh to win, didn't win. And then I had to go to an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert with my husband, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, I'm going to be in California this weekend, so I will be missing Travers. But are you both planning on being there?
I will be there. Adam being a native, I had who was it? David Lombardo, who's in broadcasting. I once, there's people like me that moved here from out of the area that love Travers. And I asked David Lombardo, that's 5 years ago, you going to Travers? And he looked at me like I had 6 heads. And he basically said, "Are you crazy?" No. So I'm guessing maybe that's Adam's answer.
Nope. I love it. My parents, I think, have been to 3 races their whole life, but I love the track. I'm excited to be back, and we get off this podcast. I'm going over to Ukraine Day over there.
Oh, good
I
for you.
will be there. I love everything about that track. I love the atmosphere. I love the excitement, and I'm sorry I'm only here for a couple of weeks of it this meet, but it's what life gave us.
Let's do a quick cheers and jeers, okay? And then let's wrap up. Anybody got cheers and jeers off the top of their head?
I've got a jeer that I've been meaning to talk about for a while. The traffic on Van Dam Street, and those that know it are cheering me right now. It is horrible.
Brutal.
It defies logic. It just takes forever to get down Van Dam Street to get onto Broadway. It's backed up every which way. That is an annoyance. And there's a couple streets like that defy logic. Hamilton Street is another one that just gets backed up. And when the new building goes in on Broadway next to Spa Catholic, that'll be even worse. So there's a couple streets here that just defy logic with their traffic. I'm not 100% sad when the Saratoga race season is over. Some things get back to normal here. I'll be mostly sad, but not 100%.
Any cheer?
I don't have a cheer this week. It was just that jeer I wanted to get out.
All right. Adam, what do you got, buddy?
I'm going to cheer the 2 ladies today with the free books, but specifically Linda. For people who don't know Linda, she's just an extremely passionate lady. oftentimes about issues that I'm not so passionate about, but being around her is infectious of wanting to go out and do good. So Linda, Robin, when you first to describe Linda to me when we were running for office, you said she's a lady every weekend at what do you call it, Liberty Corner there, or Freedom?
I call it Democracy Corner.
Democracy Corner out there in front of the post office. But anytime people are doing things for the good, it's making the world a little better. So cheers to them. Cheers to JFK Airport. Flew back into Boston. It's just such a better experience. JFK flying out of there, it's dirty. The food selections are horrible. They're always closing up, and by the time the red eye flights are leaving, the traffic is horrible. Boston Logan, I think going through, so we were in our rental car within an hour of the plane landing, and the longest time was in line to get the rental car. So Logan Airport just knocked it out of the park coming back.
JFK.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than Newark, though. Nothing worse than Newark. Anyway, my cheer and jeer for the week. My cheer is also going to be for Pat and Linda. They rock. Pat was saying that she went on a walk with Linda, and this is what it turned into. The last time I was chit-chatting with Linda, it turned into me hanging a banner off an overpass at like 6 a.m. So you never know what's going to happen with Linda, but she's so passionate, and I love her and look up to her, and I think she's just great. We have some great women in this community. My jeer for the week, pretty easy. Chad Brown, jeer, done, mic drop, over. So anyway, I think that's all we've got, guys. I will see you next Wednesday at noon. We're going to try to keep to our schedule. We're doing pretty good.
All right. Stay tuned.
All right, friends. Over and out.
Thanks for watching, folks.